Okay, this is Mack, and I want to do a video where I summarize some of the issues that I've covered in prior videos and point out the fact that none of the evolutionary godless creationists have come up with any reply to the proofs for creation and haven't even bothered to address those issues at all. And we have idiots who just sit in the dark, hiding. Here's a guy hiding in his igloo saying, I'm in the dark, God can't see me, and as long as I close my eyes and pretend that the reality is that there is no God, that I'm okay. Because no one has turned on the light, I'm in the dark. No, you put yourself in the dark, so you are responsible, you're accountable to God. But if you're a happy atheist, then live your life, be a happy atheist, but don't think that we are going to respect you. You're dumber than dirt, and you haven't addressed any of our issues. Now, I've got video after video after video, and I'm going to make reference to them in general, and you can go back and watch these videos and learn, if you watch them, the things that I'm going to point out right now. The first and second laws of thermodynamics show that there is a God. Now what they do, these godless creationists, is they pretend and go into a fantasy land where there is no scientific law of first and second law of thermodynamics. They get rid of it. So they deal in supernatural worlds and fantasy science fiction as long as there's no God. See? So they're not being scientific or consistent. They're liars. The first and second laws of thermodynamics show that in a natural world there must be a supernatural creator. No one's ever debunked that at all. Spontaneous generation of life doesn't work. That doesn't work. It never has worked. That is a debunked theory of old times, and yet people cling to it. They call it abiogenesis, pretending that that's something different, and it isn't. The chicken or the egg problems. What came first? No one can solve that. You can't solve that. God created these animals and plants and all the things. Therefore, your theory of evolution and abiogenesis, what came first? You don't have an answer. We dealt with a whole just so stories of natural selection, where natural selection is a tautology. It means nothing. It just means that which survived, survived. It tells you nothing about how the thing survived such that it may have changed or didn't change. What produced the change? That's what the issue is, not that the fact that it survived. Just a natural select, just a tautology. It means nothing. So what produced the change? Was it Lamarckism? Do things change in response to their environment? And we dealt with the central dogma of molecular biology where no, it doesn't. The DNA is not affected by the outcome of the protein. And so Lamarckism doesn't work. And yet that is the basis. And it's often hidden, not disclosed or admitted to, but that's the basis of these natural selection theories. We dealt with random mutation as the only other alternative, and how it doesn't work practically or mathematically because of the requirements that would require that random mutation knows about the environment, and it doesn't. It's blind, and it mathematically cannot produce useful proteins accidentally. It just doesn't happen. DNA information can't be random. No one has debunked that because they can. That's the DNA checkmate. Information is a communication system, meaning that there is an unwritten dictionary that defines these chemical codes that explain what's being produced back and forth. And that means that you can't randomly produce that. It doesn't happen. Communication can't occur with an information system randomly. Idiots. This is not like a I said, you said. This is like definitive proof. Design requires designers, and therefore, and all the things we're talking about, an information system, a DNA system, and all the systems of life and of the structures of organisms require designers. Interdependence requires simultaneous creation. So even independent of the thing itself are the things around it. Whether it's the cell and its structures, like the DNA, requires the enzymes. But the enzymes can't come first because you have to have DNA and compilers to make enzymes. And yet compilers aren't going to exist without cell structure, and you can't have cell structure without DNA. It's an impossible thing to come about accidentally, all those things at the same time. So there's cells, their system, body functions, plant systems, the fact of male and female. How could they arise simultaneously, accidentally? It's impossible. Food chain. Plants and animals that require one another, how could they arise independently? It's impossible. So we're talking not about a slim chance, but no chance of this evolutionary theory being true. None. Zero. It's a lie. Things produce after their kind, that can be proved, and we can prove that random mutations kill and deform. So the science, the proof, what is really known and can be seen logically and in common sense is that creation is true and this evolutionary lie is a bunch of bunkum. And yet we dealt with deductive versus inductive reasoning, and how inductive reasoning is the basis of evolutionary thought and all political correctness, meaning that you try desperately to find one case of something somewhere that you can then say, this is my basis of a proof of something or another. And I dealt with that. No one has answered all these things I'm talking about in my videos. No answers, no replies, because you can't. You have no answer. So why is it that you're emotionally so attached to this theory that you have no way of bolstering with anything reasonable, with any proof? Because you're insane, that's why. Political correctness isn't the truth. The truth is deductive reasoning of what cases are understood in general. And we dealt with semantical gimmicks and how people use dictionaries and try to redefine words and play games. For example, science. And you use that word science and you say, well, creation is not scientific. And yet you try to assume no God as part of science. And so what you try to do is you then later use the word science as an equated word to truth. You're playing games. You're just assuming what you want to assume at the beginning. Evolution. You don't want to talk about life's origin as part of evolution. You want to use the word proved when you're just dealing with inductive cases that are outliers, that are not proof, that are just cases that are exceptional cases that don't prove anything. And the reality of God is not altered by subjectivity. Just because you don't like it or you don't want it to be true doesn't mean anything. The living words of God prove it. And we dealt with mathematical proof of the Bible by prophecy. So you can't undo that. That is solid. And it has anything to do with religious matters. It has to do with math. You can't predict the future, and the Bible predicts hundreds of things in detail about the future. And you just deal with the life of Christ. All those details itself, it's more than the number of electrons in the universe. The chances of it coming about accidentally, it just can't happen. The miracles and how they were affirmed under torture, by oath, by the people who witnessed those supernatural miracles, you have a testimony of those. You say, I want to see a miracle. Somebody did, and he wrote about it, and he said it's true. We have Christian and Jewish testimony regarding the Scriptures and those people that witnessed that. We have the internal consistency, and we also have the Christian testimony of the people who got saved and can tell you all about the Lord in His dealings in their life. Internal consistency in the Bible, historical accuracy of the Bible, infallible proofs of the Bible. And the fact is, just because it's old doesn't mean it's not true. It is true. Old truth is still truth, and we deal with a reasonable proof. Reasonable people believe reasonable things when reasonable proof is presented to them, and you've had proof after proof after proof. To disbelieve it at this point is unreasonable, and you'll be held accountable for that. And on top of everything else, you have an internal thing that you could lie about to me and to anybody else, but you can't lie to God about it, which is your heart and your conscience bearing witness one to another that God is true and that He exists, and you're going to be held to account for your devilment. We dealt with the liars, the evolutionary liars, and the people you trust are liars. The Piltdown hoax, the peppered moth hoax, falsified scientific data. I dealt with that. Yet there's ad hominem. You always talk about ad hominem because I call you people idiots. Well, you use ad hominem credibility for a bunch of stupid PhDs and the universities that employ them. You think because of their PhD or their degree that they're smart and you should believe what they say without checking it out, even when it contradicts common sense. You're stupid. Jesuit humanism to destroy Bible Christianity to revive pagan pantheism. That's who's behind a lot of this stuff. And the Antichrist God of forces, we already know where this is all headed. And backsliders and embittered haters of God who know better remain willfully ignorant or undertake reasonable diligence and precaution to get saved. That's the question. What are you going to do? Which one? If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself, but if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. But if any man be ignorant, let him be ignorant. It's up to you now. You do what you want to do, but the proof has already been laid out, and you're accountable for it.